You thought Mario sports games were supposed to be pick up and play, and then Nintendo went ahead and brought Mario Strikers Battle League, which is maybe their most hardcore multiplayer game ever. It's a really weird situation here. I got Gabe joining me, and we've played a bunch of Strikers now throughout the first kicks. The game is out in just a few days, and it is a very, it's just different for Nintendo.
Zach, I woke up at 6 a.m. to play this once because I felt so bad about my
because you're so hardcore.
Yeah, and my poor performance the first time. That's how difficult the game is. I thought it was gonna be way more friendly, but I mean, I'm kind of happy that it's like this. It's taking me some time to get used to it, and that's something that I keep seeing over and over online. People are taking their time when getting used to this because there's a lot going on.
It's the first time in a Nintendo game that I can remember where I was completely overwhelmed by the controls. And not to say that they're bad controls, but like it took me a full hour to get a grasp on, okay, I can pass, I can do a free pass, I can lob, free lob, perfect time shot, regular shot, pass shot. Like there's so much happening. And I think the general idea when we hear Mario Sports, especially for those outside of Nintendo's main, nostalgic circle, is like, oh, these are like kid games. Mario Strikers Charged or Mario Strikers Battle League is not for kids.
It's not. If I were a kid playing this, I would have broken my controller out of frustration. I'm not a good loser,
and those pro controllers are expensive, so that's not good.
Yeah, for sure.
It's very interesting because we've seen this progression. I think Tennis Aces, took things up a notch. It added some interesting mechanics and created a very competitive online game. Mario Golf Super Rush kind of, I feel, is like an in-between area. Like, yes, it has some new mechanics, but a lot of them do tend to trend more towards that party element, right? Running on the courses, there's sort of like everyone golfing at once. Strikers, though, like next level games, they have made something that I feel is Nintendo's most in-depth sports title, their most competitive, and possibly at the same time their most chaotic. And it just is a very unique release for Nintendo. We don't think of them as a hardcore sports company, but some of the decisions they made here, they shrunk the arenas. They put in 4 captains. There's 4, big full characters on each team. And it's a beautiful mess. Once you get the hang of it. Before that, it's kind of a nasty mess.
Yeah. I mean, how much of it has to do with the way that they decided to showcase the game for the first time? The fact that 2 of us have to play, you can't play by yourself. In the test kick, it just wasn't set up that way. And I feel like that added to the learning curve that's here, because not only do you have to figure all of this out, there's so much going on at the screen, and then at the same time, you have to communicate with your partner. Or not communicate with your partner. You're playing alone. I can't even imagine playing alone. I played alone a little bit. It was miserable. I don't like it.
I think that right there is sort of that is like the kicker, right? For the people that are saying, wow, this is overwhelming, which is a lot. I mean, I've been reading through Reddit, and it just seems like a lot of people are like, wow, they made this too intense. And I think it's the real-time nature of soccer in comparison to the more broken apart points of tennis and, obviously golf. That you playing with another player, switching characters at random, controlling different characters all the time, and not having that communication, I think created like a cluster bomb of just chaos. I do not think that this was a smart way to show off this game, especially for the full Switch audience, right? For some of us, like, I don't know, there's a part of me that's like, dang, all right, Nintendo, like you've really stepped things up, and I really love that because I think there's going to be longevity in this game. But then I think for a lot of people, it's like, oh my God, like this is not the Mario game I was looking for.
I feel like the player base is going to be so hardcore in this. And it sounded maybe like I didn't like the game. I love it. I have so much fun when I'm playing with you with this specific mode. When the actual release comes out, we will be able to play solo against other people who are also playing solo. And you won't have to worry about all the weird shenanigans that goes on with this. But yeah, dude, like a ton of items all happening. And then you have these orbs that you want to make sure to get so that your team doesn't get like... It's overwhelming, and I can see how people that maybe were caught off guard, and we were caught off guard too, but the adjustment period for sure is taking a while. And I also went and looked on Reddit when you told me about it. It kind of seems like people don't like it. I feel like this is such a poor way to show the game off.
It seems very negative. And it's sad because people are very up on the animations, on the graphics, on the look of the game. All that's fantastic. But there's these perpetual complaints about it's chaotic, the ball's small, the lag is bad, and that is causing sort of tremors right before this game releases. There's also this like strange juxtaposition, right? This clash between, okay, this game is pretty darn hardcore, like especially for Nintendo, and then the roster is small. And they promised DLC, and we know 10 characters have been data mined, but I think it feels just like a little more upsetting to me than the other games because it is so hardcore, and this is the smallest launch day roster of any of their sports games. We were just looking. Tennis Aces had 16. Golf had
also
16.
Yeah.
And now Strikers Battle League has 10. And when you have to have 4 on your team, that means 40% of the roster is on your squad at all times. And it feels like this is one where they should not have slighted the number of characters.
Isn't it funny how that works, though? The game that requires the most characters on screen out of all of them has the smallest roster. I feel like they could have just added the 20 characters, have that be the starting roster, and then still do DLC. You could still add like, 5, 6, 7, however many you want, really. You have an abundance of characters. Do they all have the personality to be on, to be a captain? Maybe not, but you could figure it out. There's so much. Like, Diddy Kong was in Charged. He's not in this. He'll probably be DLC. But then you could bring in Jr. Dixie. You could bring in King K. Like, why can't King K. Rool be DLC?
It's an amazing opportunity to Nintendo card it up, right? To call it Mario Strikers, but bring in Samus and Pikachu and Kirby. Why Nintendo opts to not do that, I don't know. The only, if I had to play game developer here, I say, okay, there's way more personality in these characters and animations than in any of the other Mario sports games. Like, there's just way more individuality, and so maybe that was more difficult. There's also gear, way more, stat adjustments in this game than in either tennis or golf, so that potentially factors in. But I do think, you're really between a rock and a hard place with a game that feels too hard and too hardcore, and then a roster that feels like you're just phoning it in. I don't think that's a great matchup, and it's a bummer because this game is really fun. Like, everything we've set aside, it is really fun, and once you get the hang of it, it's great. But you are going to need literally a couple of hours. The tutorial is long, and playing it for the first time is daunting, and you're going to need a couple hours to really figure out, okay, I got my grips on this. And I think, as we saw with ARMS, as we saw with Tennis Aces, I don't know so much about Super Rush, the online community is probably going to split very quickly into those that want to just play and then get frustrated and give up, and those who want to compete. And it's just weird that Nintendo is going this route for a Switch system that has 100 million players.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, though, that I do think that there will be easier ways to play this game. Because I feel like it'll match
locally.
You up. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But you can start off by playing the cups on rookie mode, and you'll start getting the hang of things more slowly. You don't have to jump into the online right away. That's just the only part of the game that we've experienced. And even once you finish a couple of cups, God, I said that totally wrong.
A couple of cups.
Once you finish a couple of cups up, that's just a weird statement, regardless. Then you'll be able to slowly jump into the online, and assuming that it matches you up with new people too, you'll grow together, I guess. It just becomes of how that player base does end up being split, like you're saying, because I feel like there's some people that are going to be so hardcore, and then there's going to be some people that are so casual. Do we know they have ranked and stuff?
Yeah, the skill gap is going to be stretched farther in this game than ever before. There are the leagues, we know, right? That you can kind of join these leagues, and maybe they'll do a nice job of splitting the leagues. But I feel like Nintendo, and we'll talk about this when we get the full game, their online better be on point, because the more hardcore you make a game, the more the performance matters. And it's back and forth in the first kick.
Today was good, right? I mean,
today was better. Yes, today was better than the first day. Yeah, for sure.
The first day, you have to imagine there were just a ton of people, and the servers were being overwhelmed, and that's why these things happen. I think we have to give them some leeway here. It's silly that they make it an hour-long thing. I feel like they could have made it a 2-hour trial per
3 hours.
Per play session. But I think that Nintendo specifically, because they don't do beta or alpha or anything, this is the final game. This is what it's gonna feel like. but they did have to test the servers. And I don't know, maybe they up things up. I don't know if
there's also moves that like aren't even being used yet. I have yet to see someone do some of the tackles where you tackle into a teammate in order to tackle a further teammate.
I try.
And like think about
it's hard.
That would be, yeah, it would be useful. We see scenarios where it would come into play, but like there is a skill ceiling here that I think is just much higher than the last strikers. And that's exciting and also kind of daunting. I think this is going to end up being super divisive. And I never would have thought that like Mario sports games would end up being like this divisive element of the Switch. Like 20 years down the road, Gabe, like we can do a documentary on like the trio of sports games that sort of this odd era of Nintendo going really hardcore.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say that we even experienced a representation of all of this firsthand. Today, when we jumped in, we absolutely crushed the first match.
Right.
We might have won like 6-0 or something. Not probably don't know if it was 6-0, but it was something like that.
Yeah, it was 6-1.
Yeah. And then the second or third match, we lost 10-3. And we're like, whoa, like this is like such a different thing because the first people were super easy, but then these people are clear. Yeah, they're like clearly on another level. And then by the end, we started winning again. So I feel like that's something that we're going to experience. Where you'll be in a lobby. Yeah, you'll be in a lobby. It'll be a little like too hardcore. The people will be doing some advanced stuff that, you don't even think of. But yeah, that's going to be the way it's going to be for a little bit.
I don't think Strikers has ever thought of it to be easy, but I do think it's going to, like the reception is going to be very weird. I think this is a high quality game with incredible animation and graphics and great gameplay beneath the outer shell of like dedication. Like you really do need to commit some time to this. And I think of it like, people bought Kirby in the Forgotten Land, and what if Kirby had like 50 moves? And what would the reaction be? So I'm very curious to see how this is going to pan out. But right now, do you think Nintendo made a mistake?
No. I think that people will grow into it. Like the thing about this, since we're not used to it, if this was any other company that wasn't Nintendo,
you wouldn't care.
Yeah, because it's more commonplace elsewhere. Roller Champions is a good example of a game that came out that has some intricate gameplay going on, and you don't pick it up right away, and it takes a while. But no one really bats an eye at it because whatever, it's Ubisoft.
Yeah.
But Nintendo having the history of being so friendly with these things, that's why when we get something like this, the reaction that's happening is what happens. But like with all the other games, people just learn how to play it. People are smart. People are going to be able to adapt, and the people that want to be way more casual will be. They'll play locally. They'll, stay out of the leagues if that ends up being like the hardcore element. And I think it'll be fine.
Well, it is definitely not your older brother's Mario Strikers. This is a new era for Mario and his small roster that will expand, but probably should have been bigger at the beginning. Let us know how you feel about Strikers, if you had a chance to play it, or if not, just based on what you're hearing, like, are you scared away from this game due to the initial like overwhelm, or does that make it more tantalizing for you? I wonder, the longevity of this is just going to be super interesting. Does the difficulty make the player base want to stay more because there's more to unlock and more to sort of get through?
Let's guess.
Or does...
Because I want to tell you very quickly, the longevity of Aces was pretty darn good.
It was.
The longevity of Golf was pretty darn bad. So where do we think this falls? I think it'll be closer to Aces. Closer. I don't know.
My initial guess would be no, but then, you cite those examples, and it's like, as long as the DLC is regular, and I think here the DLC to me matters more than any other, because the roster is small, the DLC is more important, right? Like, you had 4 different tricky characters already in, Mario Tennis Aces, but getting another speedster that maybe has great passing could be really interesting. So adding Diddy, adding Bowser Jr., and adding Daisy. Yeah, Daisy alone makes this, the longevity is there. So I think it'll be fine. Let us know what you think in the comments down below, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be covering Mario Strikers Battle League and its full launch soon, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Thank you, Gabe, for being here. And until next time, SwitchForce out.